What is going on, boys? Welcome back to another video, and today we're going over the best Rift money making methods. I know a lot of the videos lately have been Rift focused. I am the Rift guy. I had to make this video. So today I decided to test every single one of the Rift money making methods, or most of them. Some of them aren't like actual money making methods, but they are ways to make money, so that you guys will know exactly the best ways to develop net worth, especially if you are just starting out in the game. Before we get into it, I do want to ask you guys to please scroll down and subscribe. Every subscription helps me out immensely. I also stream at twitch.tv/theogiati every Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 1 p.m. CST, so make sure to show up to those, and let's get into the video. So before we get started with actually the main money making methods, the first thing I want to preface this video with is that for any of these to be better than normal, or to be at max efficiency, like make the most money, you should have completed Mountaintop. If you haven't completed Mountaintop, you should go out and do it. There are a lot of good reasons to complete Mountaintop, such as maximizing your Rift time, such as being able to use Ubix Cube, and also be able to participate and try to get free wills. The reason why both of these are extremely important to get is because number one, Ubix Cube offers you AFK modes, or at least semi-AFK. Every 2 hours you can talk to this person on the right. Their name changes. Right now it's Virginia. As you can see, I'm still on cooldown, and you can play a game of split or steal. Virginia always splits, so if you always steal, you'll always get the maximum amount of motes that you possibly could get. This could be anywhere from 25k to 45k motes every 2 hours. It may not seem like a lot, but it builds up. The other reason to finish Mountaintop is to be able to participate in Ubik von Neumann's game of averages. For example, I was in the closest 10% to half the average, and I get granted a free will. Free wills kind of fluctuate in price, but it's usually a free multi-millions of coins. Like imagine you just started the game, you get this item for free that is 23 million coins. That's not going to progress you a whole lot, but it's way better than nothing. It saves you a lot of time and a lot of money making that you would have to do yourself. So please get out there and finish the Rift, finish Mountaintop. It shouldn't take you a ton of time. I do have a full comprehensive guide to the Rift on my channel, and I also have a video on the Mountaintop as well for those of you that need it. And with that, let's get into the actual money making methods. The first one we're going to take a look at, since we are already here, is Aruo the Almighty. Now you might be wondering, well, how can you possibly make money with this? If you take a look at the shop itself, there is one item that can be transferred to the overworld, other than, grandma's knitting needle, but one item that actually makes a solid amount of money that can be transferred to the overworld, and that is the extremely real shuriken. Another thing I want to preface that I forgot to mention before is every single one of these money making methods was tested for at least 30 minutes to try to get the most accurate results. So in 30 minutes I was able to do roughly 30 bosses. It's about a boss a minute if you factor in having to come back after your time expires, warping, and all that kind of stuff. That equates to 60 bosses per hour. While I'm grinding, I also don't have brand new dance on or revival on. Revival is arguable. I don't know if it saves you time or is better value to have it on or off. I decided to have it off, so therefore I'm getting 30 essence per boss. 60 bosses an hour times 30 essence per boss is 1800 essence per hour. Shurikens sell in stacks of 16 for 32 essence, which means that I am getting 900 shurikens per hour. Take their price on AH right now, and that is 54 million coins per hour. But there's one thing to note. Actually entering and battling Aruo costs motes, and motes do have a coin value. They have a value of about 70 coins per mote, give or take a few. 60 entries at 5k per is 300,000 motes per hour, which is roughly 21 million motes. So if you subtract 21 from 54, you'll see about 33 mil per hour, which is pretty solid. That's really solid for a money-making method from the Rift. But the one thing to note about this money-making method is if you wait for Diana, or possibly Aatrox, prices should rise. The price for last Diana spiked all the way up to 80k per. Taking 900 shurikens at 80k per is 72 mil per hour. Obviously, you have to subtract the 21 mil for entries, and that's 51 mil per hour. Shuriken farming is definitely a very solid money-making method and should always be good due to how useful shurikens are and how fast people can go through them. This also doesn't require saving motes for Prism, but it does require a little bit of highlight farming when you run out of motes, or just always doing your Ubix Cube on cooldown. How quickly the mote cost adds up is definitely something to take into account, meaning you're probably not going to make as much money as you want. I also entered the Rift 3 times while doing this. If you don't have a Prism, this adds up to roughly 960k per hour. Not a ton, but it still knocks another mil of profit per hour. Overall, solid money making method. The next Rift money making method we're going to be going over is actually grinding for reflection books through this guy over here, the Shadow Crux. He drops Shadow Crux, which can be turned into reflection bundles through the Time Burst rewards shop, and it makes a solid amount of money. These Shadow Cruxes spawn in the West Village. The preferred farming route that I would do is these two right here, and then the other three that spawn in front of the Coliseum on this strip. The one thing to note is that when grinding these, if you get hit by the Shadow Bump, that Shadow Bump right there, you'll actually lose 60 seconds of Rift time. However, it's super easy to avoid this. All you have to do is run over the top, and it's impossible for him to hit you. So this really shouldn't be considered a risky money-making method. The only thing to note is when you're farming this route, they actually get really buggy with the buildings. So if you run around the building and he gets stuck up top, he might end up bumping you. I got bumped a couple times that way. Now obviously having Mountaintop completed is recommended for more time. Having a max tier Crux is recommended. Crux Talisman is recommended in order to get the most Shadow Crux per kill. You also gain 150 motes per kill and 9 Comet XP per kill, which really isn't that much, but it should add up over time. In 30 minutes, I got 378 Shadow Crux. That is 756 Shadow Crux per hour. In 30 minutes, I also gained roughly 26k motes, which is 52k motes per hour. Reflection book bundles cost 16 Crux and 5k motes. That means in an hour, 47 and a fourth bundles can be bought. This will also cost you 236k motes. This equates to 141.75 Reflection 1 books, and when you are selling Reflection, you definitely want to be selling them as tier 5s. This means we are able to make 8.86 Reflection 5 books, and with the current Bazaar price of 8.2 mil per, we just made 72.5 mil per hour. Now, again, you have to subtract the price of the motes when you're buying them, which equates to roughly 13 mil. Still, that's 59.5 mil per hour. That's nuts. And according to a Bazaar Tracker website, it looks like it actually sells too. It has 788 insta-buys in the last 7 days. That's a really solid amount. Reflection book farming is disgusting for coins. Keep in mind though, you might run out of motes while doing this, very similar to Sun Gecko farming. If so, that will take away from profit per hour. And if a lot of people start doing this, it might drop in price as well. Also takes time to transfer the books out and craft them, so take this with a grain of salt. But overall, reflection book farming, very good. The next method I want to go over is something I've actually talked about before, and it is wilted Berberis farming. However, before I talked about turning these into Jinxed Voodoo dolls for good value, which it is still good value by the way. But with the recent slime minion nerf, people have stopped using corrupted soil and are now using Berberis fuel injectors, so they have shot up in price. So farming Berberis is kind of goated right now. I would recommend when you farm in this small plot, and you can also try to memorize the spawns as they spawn in to actually speed up your ability to farm them. In 30 minutes, I was able to get 1,520 Berberis, which is 3,040 per hour. That is 9 Berberis fuel injectors per hour, and at the current price of 4.8 mil per, that's 43.2 mil an hour. Really, really good. And you don't have to subtract anything for motes or go out and grind motes if you run out of motes for this. Overall, A+ money making method. The next two areas in the Dread Farm that I do want to talk about are grinding Caduceus for Caduceus feeders, as well as grinding the Agricus chum caps. I would not recommend doing either of these. They're not good. I know I said I was going to go over all money making methods. I didn't even test those because if I was going off of rates from Pat, they're like 18 mil an hour. That's over twice as bad as wilted Berberis. It's almost twice as bad as the majority of the Rift money making methods. I just would not do it. The next money making method we have is actually exportable carrot grinding, which isn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. I thought the prices were dead. Turns out, not dead. However, there is a requirement to doing this, and that is having the nearly coherent fishing rod. Because without this, it is extremely hard to guide your rabbit, and it's super annoying. That means you're going to have to get to tier 4 of the half-eaten carrot collection, as well as having 16 nearly whole carrots in order to craft this. The rest of these items can be gotten from the Mirrorverse. But in 30 minutes, I was able to get 42 nearly whole carrots and 29 half-eatens. That is 84 nearly whole carrots per hour. These are sold as exportable carrots, which means you also need to grind Scribe and Volt Crux. In 30 minutes, you need 21 Volt and 21 Scribe Crux. It only took me 4 minutes to get the Crux I needed. In total, 34 minutes for 21 stacks of exportable carrots, times the current selling price of 15.5k right now, which is 20.8 mil every 34 minutes. Putting this into hourly means you are making roughly 37 million coins per hour. Pretty good for just running back and forth with carrots. Now, I will say the one thing that you should probably do is just grind the scribes and volts separately, like spend an hour grinding these and then going and grinding the carrots, because it'll get you better time value money. The best way to grind these scribes are actually just having them go up, running all the way over here, hitting this one, letting him go up, and then running all the way back. And as you can see, you don't even have to do the little mini task that you have to do. He'll just be down, you can kill him and get your Scribe Crux. The same can be said for grinding Volt Crux. The same can be said for grinding a lot of the Cruxes actually, other than maybe Shy and Shadow. Is you don't really have to actually do the little tasks that they make you do. You can just run away and then you're fine. Heading over to the Living Metal Cave, you guessed it, we're going to be talking about grinding snakes. Specifically for Bluetooth rings, because Bluetooth rings are actually selling for a solid amount right now. The other reason why I wanted to talk about snakes again is because of the new method of grinding snakes, which I have recently discovered. Not discovered, but I have recently heard about, which is speed snakes. All that is if you are grinding a snake, so you know how when you're grinding a snake, you stun, you mine, you stun, you mine, and so on. That's slow. Normally you can fix that by just holding it down, having a partner, and have them mine it. Speed snakes are different. With speed snakes, you can actually double, or close to double, how fast you're mining the snake. So the way it works is you're both going to be stunning. I'll be stunning this block. Whoever I'm partnered with will be stunning this block. And then I'll mine. He'll start mining a fraction of a second after I start mining, and we'll mine 2 blocks in the amount of time where it would normally mine 1 block. Now, the one thing I will say is if you do this with 2 people, it's going to be difficult, especially if you're farming up here, which I think is the superior place to farm, because snakes just spawn more often, and there's like 5 snakes in this area. It's really good to farm up here as opposed to down there. But the issue is when you're both trying to stun, sometimes the snake will still get away because you'll both have your pickaxe out and you won't be stunning. So what I would recommend is if you're going to try to do speed snakes, I would get a third person. Have somebody that is just a dedicated stunner, or it doesn't even have to be a third person. You can have as many people stunning as you want and just have 2 miners. But have somebody permanently stunning while the other 2 are just swapping off blocks, and you will farm these so incredibly well. In 30 minutes as a speed snake duo, I was able to get 180 hearts per hour. That is 360 living metal hearts per hour. That equates to 11 1/4 Bluetooth rings per hour, and at 4 mil per, which is what I was able to sell mine for, that's 45 million coins per hour. And that was with us losing snakes. Imagine if you had a third person, it would be incredibly efficient, probably upwards of 60-70 mil an hour. According to Melon King D, you're able to get 70 mil an hour. This is just an absolutely disgusting strategy. The one thing that I would recommend is not trying to do this with random people in the lobby. You do want to try to do this with people you can either VC with, or with people that you know understand what they're doing, because it definitely does take some practice to be able to match the person that you're mining it with. The only other thing about mining up here is these slabs. Sometimes they can be stuck under these slabs. That is annoying, but usually if you stick to when they're on the walls, you should be just fine. This next money-making method brings us back to the mountaintop, and you guessed it, I've talked about this one before, but it is highlight prism mining, or there are a lot of different things you can do revolving time and money. You can mine Discrete, which makes a solid amount of money, like 40 mil an hour, or you can mine these, create highlight, and sell them to this moat grubber over here for up to 500 to 550k motes per hour. It is currently the best way to get motes in the game. So if you are grinding, say, Sun Gecko farming, and you run out of motes, this is going to be your best way to actually gain motes back. Converting those motes into Prism, it's roughly 30 to 35 mil per hour based on current Prism prices. So if you're just going to be mining it for money and not motes, I'd probably recommend Discrete. But again, if the market is flooded with a ton of Discrete, it's going to go down in price. The other good thing about Discrete is you're not locked into the 36 to 40 hours it takes to grind out Prism itself to actually be able to purchase it. But I wanted to make sure that I mentioned that this is by far the best way to grind motes in the Rift. And the last method I want to talk about is one that I've talked about a lot and made several videos on, is actually tier 5 vampires, just because it's It's a really good money-making method. Now, with the current situation, if it was me personally, I would either try doing Speed Snakes or Wilted Berberis. But Tier 5 amps is definitely one of the most fun ways of grinding money in the Rift. Due to this amazing item in my PV, the Super Sharp and Stabby Steak, you are actually able to spawn a Tier 5 due to the ability of 1.5 times combat XP in only 12 kills, which is super fast. It used to be 25 kills per spawn. This means that parties don't matter as much and solo grinding is way more viable, which I am always on board for. This also means that you'll be doing more bosses per hour, with better odds of dropping the 1 in vampire parts, because you won't have the nerfed odds of loot share. For those of you that don't know, loot share is only like a 1/6 as good of odds as normally doing the boss yourself, or having it be your own boss. Unfortunately, due to moatflation, saving up for Prism is a lot slower. Therefore, most of your money will come from the 1 in vampire drops. So if you have good RNG or you want to risk the RNG, you can make a lot of money with this. This means that Tier 5 amps, depending on RNG, should be anywhere from 40 mil to roughly 50 mil per hour. Now again, this could spike up and be super high, or it could be super low depending on your RNG. And with that, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to give it a like, subscribe, all that good stuff. I mean, I just had to get this video out there so that people know all of the different ways to make money with the Rift. I stream at twitch.tv/TheOGOtti every Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 1 p.m. CST, so make sure to check me out there. We're currently on the class average 50 grind. And with that, I will see you guys in the next one. Peace!